As always, guys, we're going to do the Balance Council tier list. This is for the December Balance Council. So this one's a little late. I was traveling for Thanksgiving, and we'll have to see if this improves or worsens my mood after having been in the car from traveling. So let's see. We'll get in here with the tiers. Top tier, best changes. These are changes I really like or I think might actually make a difference. Good changes are changes that are good, and they might not make a huge difference in the decks that are played, but I like seeing them. Neutral changes, I don't care one way or the other. Questionable is basically neutral, but I think they might end up being bad. Bad changes are ones I don't like and I think are bad. And I hate this tier is for the stuff I constantly have to put down here because it's changed like every 3 seconds. So let's get into these changes here. So starting off with, we'll begin with the, what are these? The provision increases. So the provision nerfs, we have Call of Harmony. Harmony's not great, but it's not terrible either. I'd rather just buff the Harmony cards than buff the leader, but I don't care that much. Same thing for the Invigorate. I don't really like buffing leaders that much. I think I'd rather just see the cards change. However, this does help for cards that see crossover between different leaders to not help them across the entire faction, I say for specific decks. Say maybe if other decks, say Guerrilla Tactics started using Dana, this wouldn't help Dana because this is limited to Harmony. So I get it. It's whatever. I don't care really one way or the other on these. Demoven Temple's like the only Northern Realms deck I see that's good. This got a provision nerf. I think it's probably warranted. I'm not the biggest fan of that deck. This card is just insane. Anyone who uses Demoven, you understand this card's insane. Probably deserved, but not too strong. I'm above neutral on it though. Witch's Sabbath. This is probably my least favorite card in the entire game. That being said, to deserve a provision nerf is a balance at 13. It takes a lot of setup. I don't honestly know what this thing's balanced as. I didn't see that many of it last season. I'll say it's good. I don't like it. It might deserve to be. It is an insane card, to be fair. We saw some of this. It is an insane card, sure. Battle Stations, I'm more neutral on. I'd rather see, like, Battle Stations is a very, very powerful card. All right, I'll give it the good. Battle Stations is very, very strong. I'm debating this one just in a vacuum, though. Just considering these cards like in a vacuum here, I guess, for this. This is probably warranted at 13. It's very strong. It thins the deck by 2, plays 2 bronzes at once, it develops 2 engines. It's very, very strong. I think the thinning by 2 is something people overlook a lot, too, especially open at round 1. Tatterwing. Tatterwing is one of the other Monsters decks I saw. Most of the Monsters decks we saw were Fruits. And then a couple of these, couple Frosts, couple Witch's Sabbath. Probably good. I don't like Tatterwing, and I think the fact that if we want to buff like Arachas Swarm in general, the fact that Tatterwing is there, I kind of have. Actually, we'll put this up here. This is going up here. I think about this a little more. I really want The thing with Tatterwing is it's just better than regular Arachas Swarm most of the time, which isn't good. So if Tatterwing's more expensive, we can buff the regular Arachas Swarm cards, and they can actually see their own deck, see a little bit more play. I think this opens up space for more Arachas Swarm buffs in general, which I think is really good. Then we have Shoop's Day Off. This went to 12. I'm the neutral on this one. Shoop's Day Off is an insane payoff card. It has so much value on it, so much flexibility, but then again, you're building your deck condition to do one of cards just for this. So I think it should be a little bit more powerful than other cards at its provision level. It's kind of how deck building stuff works. The question is, when do you go too far? Example right here. But yeah, I think this is probably okay. I mean, the only factions that play this are Nilfgaard and Skellige. So I guess this is probably fine. I'm not the biggest fan, though. It's probably deserved. But then again, I think it should be pretty strong, because it is, at the end of the day, a deck building payoff card. Then we have Yon. It's going straight down here. Yon's always getting changed. Yon is the best consistency card in the game. I honestly think that if this was getting nerfed, we just leave Shoop, because it's mostly played in Nilfgaard. And that hurts the same deck because you always stack it with it. But whatever. Morntart. Probably good. This is a very strong finisher card. Although comparing this to Corrupted Flamenica is hilarious. But this is a very powerful finisher card. And the Harpies decks. I saw several different Harpies decks. Harpies Fruits. I saw Harpies... Actually, I think we saw mostly Fruits and a couple Arachas Swarm. This deck is still decently popular in my games, and it's pretty strong, so I can see that. Open some more space. Phyrexian to 9, probably good. I didn't play too much Devotion Symbiosis. I think this card was pretty strong, though. The 1 power buff was really nice because it immediately died at like 5 prisoners or something. 5 power removal or 6 power removal once the vitality goes off, but it is a very much stronger engine as a result, so I think the provision more is fair there. This is going straight down here. We already mentioned it. Constantly getting changed. I don't want to talk about it. Let's do it. I get to save so much time every time one of these pops up. It's great. We're not dropping this in bad, though. Gedeniath top tier. Gedeniath Shadow, and Gedeniath Shadow, I think, is really good. I really like the, well, not really good. I think it's a really interesting card. I think Druids deserve to be like a decent playable deck. The problem is that they go really tall, which is pretty punish, and Gedeniath Shadow doesn't really have the right, like, doesn't make sense as a 14 provision scenario, I think. I think 13 makes much more sense. Give some more space to that deck. Then we have Heimdall. I love Heimdall. Heimdall is such a cool card, but at the end of the day, it probably won't make much of a difference. We'll put him up here in good. I really want to put him in top tier, but he's not going to, still he makes much of a difference. I don't think people start playing Heimdall other than maybe the first couple days for some fun, so we'll leave him here. Crimson Curse, though, is a different one. So Crimson Curse, I really like. We're going to put this one top tier. The reason I like this is because there's 3 versions of vampires. There's Renfrey vampires, by far the best. Then you have non-Renfrey vampires and devotion vampires. I guess you can count Witch's Sabbath in there too, because I've seen a bit of that with Unseat Elder copying, but I don't really count that as a vampires deck. So yeah, you have those 3 options. Renfrey vampires, by far the best. Devotion vampires, by far the worst. And then you've got like Golden Necker vampires. When I say non-Renfrey, non-devotion, it's usually Golden Necker. This now fits in Golden Necker and non-Renfrey vampires. So this is a great help to the other vampires that aren't Renfrey, which I think is great because those decks are the less optimal ones to play, a little bit weaker, and this helps them out, which is great. Portal to 10. I'm going to put this up in here in top tier. I think Portal is really interesting. You can do a lot of combos with it. I know we had people suggesting this with Vigilantes. There's a lot of things you can do with Portal. I think it's a really interesting card. It has a 3-turn delay in the second one. And I think this is a really cool one. I think it deserves to see a little more play for how much it used to be played. Germain Piquant, I think this is a good one. The only thing Germain Piquant I think I've ever seen him played in recently is like Melitele, but I don't think he's standard in there. I think people don't normally play him in there. Maybe we can make some Golden Necker Swarm decks with Queen Meve. That's something I really want to try with the buffed Carrack Frigates. Really wanted to try that. That should be pretty fun. And maybe something else. Maybe we can finally make a Slave Infantry deck again. But I like this one. I think this is interesting. Imlerith, he's going up here. Imlerith is a very interesting card. It thins your deck by 1. He can play for some tempo. 8 provisions is much easier to stomach than 9. So I really like this change. At 8, if you discard like a 10 power unit, that's 13 for 8. That's all right. I think probably about something like that. Probably about 10, where I think it's pretty good to discard for him. Normally, I would discard more, do like Egrin or something, but I think this is great. I really hope this sees play. We're going to try and make this work, I think, this patch. Then we have the thing I don't know how to pronounce and never bother looking up because I'm just going to forget. The deer, as we say. I like this change going to 6. This makes it so you can tutor, you can call the forest your Philavandrel and make it off of it. I don't think it matters much otherwise, but it's really conditional carryover. You have to do 2 specials, I believe, and that's fine. It's an okay card. I've only ever used this in the Prism Pendant decks, which Prism Pendant Golden Necker, we have to revisit. That was really, actually, I was amazed how successful that was last time we used it, but we'll have to try that one again now this got buffed. Highland Warlord, this is my least favorite change of the entire council. This is going right here, and I actually hate this, other than just talking about it repeatedly. I actually hate this change. Highland Warlord Raids was like the best Skellige deck of the last patch. Maybe you can argue Pirates, but I think this was the best Skellige deck of the last patch. It's also by far the most common one, so we're buffing it because we don't like that it got nerfed after it was the best. This is dumb. Then we have Slave Drivers going right here. We don't have Nausicaa in here yet. Let's grab him. You know what? Let's throw Nausicaa in here. I've already said my stuff on these 2. I think this should be 6. This is fine at 4 power, but I think that's what should happen for these 2. Then we have Visagard is an interesting one. This is interesting. I think we'll put this by Germain because I hopefully can make a deck with these. He gets 1 more base power. I'd rather see him cheaper, honestly, than more power because he's already kind of hard to get through with the armor. But I see that you can, like, in a short round, it's better. I would have liked to see cheaper, I think, but maybe this is makes more sense. Dunka, this is a top tier change, though. There's a lot of times I've tried to get Dunka to work. She's a really interesting... No, I wouldn't say really interesting. She has an interesting spot. Because right now only hand buff plays her, and at hand buff, she's a 5 Takes 5 removal engine, kind of like the Hawker Smuggler, but Hawker Smuggler costs 6. They do the same thing. So Dunka's spots really in other decks where you can use the flexibility of the damage. So I think she definitely deserves this extra power. I'm just trying to think. We've used her in a few different decks over the time, and she never works out. Just 5 damage to kill her's too much, or too little. I mean, she's just too easy to get rid of. I like this. We have Tamara. I like Tamara. Hopefully to see some play in bounties along with the portal stuff. So I like this change. And I've always found with bounties it's really hard to actually fit different options because there's so many cards you definitely like want to or feel like you have to play. That's a really tight deck list. Whenever I try to make a bounty deck, I find it hard to adjust it. So hopefully this helps make her a little more competitive in those decks. They all are pretty much the same at this point. Gale's a great change. Payoff card for vampires that doesn't usually get enough payoff. Now, if you don't have the death blow, it's going to do 3 damage, 8 for 6. That's not the worst thing ever. It's not great, but 8 for 6, if it doesn't death blow and you're like a suboptimal choice, it's not the worst feeling, which is nice. And also, obviously, you can get the big payoffs for it, which is the most fun part about the card. Another great change here is Ciaran. We've been using Ciaran a bit lately. It's not quite as good as Moran, because Moran has the 2 damage options. So people usually opt for Moran and decks with Call the Forest. You literally use Ciaran and movement decks. So I'd like to see that. I like this as more competitive. And even in those decks, usually you just play Directory Vol unless you're in Devotion, because it just is more consistently the value. And the movement usually doesn't matter on this because cards are already locked. So really like this one. Standard Bearer. Now this is a cool change. Now Standard Bearer now has 5 baseline. So the opponent, this is the, if you've never seen this card, this guy gets he gets a boost himself by 1 for each boosted enemy unit. So if the opponent has a bunch of boosted units, you play this, you get a bunch of value. So baseline of 5 instead of 4 means if they have, say, 3 or 4 boosted units, you're pretty happy. That's not that uncommon, and in something like Toussaint Knights, probably pretty common. Maybe you'll try and fit that in there, hit 3 or 4 units. And if you're ever up against something, say your opponent's playing a Germain Yennefer deck, boost all their stuff, it's hilarious payoff. But this is an interesting card. I'd like to see this getting buffed. Then we have, put you next to Tamara. Witch Hunter is, I've always thought about Witch Hunter as just like a worse version of Slander. The coins are just more useful than getting points on the board most of the time, because you can spend the coins to kill the thing you put the bounty on. So Witch Hunter does need a little bit more power to catch up. I've tried Witch Hunter. I've tried it actually with Tamara. They go together because this is you're playing more units as opposed to the crimes. And as such, she gets more payoff because she gives more power to your deck. So these two work pretty well together. I've just found that his payoff's just not enough. But hopefully with these two, we can make something work there. Does a little anti-portal synergy, though, because then you pull this out instead of probably Vigilantes. But we'll see what we can do. Night Wraith. I talked about this a little bit with Tatterwing. It's not going in neutral. This is going up. This is a good one. So this is I've mentioned with Tatterwing that buffing the Swarm decks, it's kind of hard because they all buff Tatterwing, but nerfing Tatterwing means that you can buff the cards in the deck without Tatterwing just staying as the best one. This is one of those things. Like in Tatterwing, this is the same because it gained a base power. We'll put up little tags for what happened on these. So, little chapter titles, I mean. So if you're confused about what category we're talking about, just check the chapter title. So this is a power buff. And in Tatterwing doesn't make a difference because Tatterwing sets it to 1. Otherwise, as 6 on deploy now, 8 payoff if you get the Death Wish, which is nice. It's a little bit better. Next up, we have Haimei Scald, also a good one. No one plays this anymore. Sometimes you see like one of it in a discard-based deck, but even now you don't. You just like try and wait till you have the Coral and the Burna. So this is good. Alyssa, I don't really know about this one. I don't really play Alyssa decks. They're more like the triple, which is Sabbath decks. The Precision, the Waylay decks where you recycle the Waylays, although I haven't seen that. Usually it's just like, don't play the Waylays and then you play them later. I haven't seen like the spamming Waylays even with heists on this thing. So I don't really know. I don't really care about this one. We have Axel 3 Eyes. Now this is an interesting one. So I'm going to put this in neutral for a second here while we think about this. Axel is a really interesting one. I've always been a little split on Axel. I know people say it's overpowered at 7. So it's 11 for 7 point slam unconditional, which is good. That's really strong point slam. At 10 for 7 point slam, it's definitely in the not good point slam category, I don't think. Like this is 10 for 7. This is 10 for 6 with 2 armor. Just as a comparison example. So I can see this. It's still good in like Druids because you spawn the alchemy. and that alchemy can trigger stuff. So it's still good and things like that. It's definitely less good as just a point slam card. I was always on the edge with this one being nerfed or not, and then since I was always on the edge, I decided not to bother. But I don't know about this one. We'll see. It might just see no play now because Druids, even with this, might not be a good deck. So this might see no play now they got nerfed, but it might also just still see play because there's not many other 10 like good point slam mid-rangey cards you can fit into a bunch of different decks. We'll see. Then we have Deacon. I don't care. I mean, it's cultists. Cultists. The biggest thing with cultist decks. Actually, I think this has been changed enough to go down here, which makes me really happy. I think this is at least the 4. Usually I wait till these have changed 4 times or more. I think this is at least 4 now. Right? I think this has been 4 changes. What's going down there? I think. The thing with the Deacon and the whole cultist thing, the problem with cultists, in my opinion, is cultists, if you can't remove the scenario, you lose. Okay, fine. If there's can't remove you lose cards in the game, that's fine as long as there's counterplay. Problem with this is devotion is something that I think a lot of players, myself included, really want to see expanded in the game, at least based on my comments. People really like the idea of more devotion decks. You can't really do devotion while cultists are a top deck because you just can't beat it. I mean, unless you're playing like Precision Strike or something with a ton of damage, you can't stop cultists in devotion because you don't have the option Heatwave scenario ever. There's no scenario removal outside of neutral. There's like Shoop, Verification, and Heatwave. So that's my problem with it. Is like devotion. This just kills devotion when this is good, and I think devotion's much more interesting than having this around. So I get the idea. I get that people like this deck and just spamming the giant point guys. I don't know. It's going down here. FOV, I'm probably saying FOV change. This is to stop like more. This reduces the tempo of the tutor. Where's Vabuorn? Vabuorn's going up here. Vabuorn's going top tier. Vabuorn's going top tier. Like this is a nerf, 1-point nerf to the tempo of like Raid Warriors. I think just Raid Warriors plays this. Maybe Otkel Pirates, although I haven't seen that much. Pirates might play this sometimes. But yeah, this is just a. I was going to say that at least we got a nerf to Raid Warriors because it was the best Skellige deck of last patch, I think. But it also got Highly Warlord reverted, so it actually got buffed. So that's even better. This is up here then. They have to have at least something. We'll stick FOV up there too because I think the devotion and the tempo off of stuff like this into Frog Mating Season was a little high. So we'll put this up here. Henry, I don't actually like this one very much. I know I think I said when Henry was like 8 power, I think I voted for him to go down. It was like 8 for 11, I think I voted for him to get -1 power. I think I said that. But now he's like 6 for 12. I think he was probably fine. Usually it's Henry Shoop. Shoop got nerfed, this got nerfed, Jan got nerfed. I just think that by itself, Henry at 12 with the 7 power seemed okay to me. I played some Henry Shoop and it seemed fine. It didn't seem too strong. But I think that this one, I don't know. Maybe it was too good. I don't really think so, but I'm not too sure. So this one is questionable. Same thing for Incubus. Let's think about Incubus here. The thing with Incubus is Monsters was pretty strong. This was in a lot of the Point Slam decks. We'll put this one up in good, I think. I just dropped it there so I can talk about it without losing it. So Incubus, yeah, it brings back a Griffin. That's 13 points. You bring back a 1 for the opponent. That's like the best case scenario, right? You bring that back a 1-point guy. It's 12 points. Realistically, you're probably bringing back like a 3 or 4-point guy, which is just bringing back the Griffin in essence. But it can bring back some other stuff. Sometimes you bring back a, a Witch Apprentice, and it's worth a whole bunch more than that. I guess you bring back different stuff. This one's fine. Like, I guess that it's good that the monsters top decks, the fruit decks got nerfed. It got this, and also one with Getsu. But I really want to play Relics, and I don't think I really want to while this thing keeps getting nerfed. So, I don't think we got any Relic buffs, actually. That's a little unfortunate. I want to play Relics again. This is going down there. This is going down there. Don't like this one. Do like this one, just for reference. And then we've got the Lord Riptide. Let's see here. Riptide 9 for 9. I would much rather see this than Riptide at 10. Because Monsters, as a rule, doesn't have much control. And Monsters Golden Necker has like I mean, if you didn't have Riptide, what do you have? You have Toad Prince, and then Parasite. You probably have to play what's it called? Mastercraft Spears. You probably have to, or some of the swords. So this one I think is probably a good change. Um, Monsters was I think the Monsters was the most popular faction I played last season. So let's put this up here. It's probably good this thing got changed. I would much rather have this than the 10 provisions. So I think this is where I'd put this if it wasn't like the fifth time this thing's been changed. So it's down there. So yeah, that is the December Balance Council. Taking a look over these changes, I think I'm pretty happy with all of these. Yeah, this looks pretty happy. Pretty happy. This I'm pretty happy with this, I think. Not much in these bad ones down here, because all the ones that I think are terrible are in the I hate this because they're constantly getting changed. But yeah, let's see. What's my favorite? We'll add this in. What's my favorite change? This one. I think my favorite change, and this one's probably the Eamlarith. I really want to try and mix up with Eamlarith. He's really cool. Least favorite change, easily Highland Warlord. This is dumb, but let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you don't mind this is a day or two late, but I wasn't here to make it and we'll see you in the next one.